We were sitting around the campfire one chilly night, the flames casting flickering shadows on our faces, when old Mihail decided to tell us the creepiest story he'd ever heard. He leaned in, his voice low and serious, and said, "This is a true story, passed down through my family. It happened to some friends of my grandfather's when he was young. It's about an old castle near our village and the terrible things that happened there." We all leaned in closer, eager to hear more. "It was back in the village of Brnesti, Romania," Mihail began. "My grandfather's friends were 3 inseparable kids, Andrei, Elena, and Mihai. They loved exploring, always looking for adventure, and one day they decided to visit the abandoned castle that everyone in the village whispered about. It was said to be haunted by Vlad the Impaler, also known by everyone as Dracula. The ruthless ruler did all sorts of terrible things." Mihail paused for effect, letting the crackling of the fire fill the silence. "This castle was creepy enough in the daytime, but they chose to go in the late afternoon, as the sun was setting. They made their way through the dense forest with Andrei leading the way, Elena following close behind, and Mihai reluctantly bringing up the rear. The forest was alive with rustling leaves and strange noises. As they got closer to the castle, the sun dipped below the horizon, and the sky turned dark. The castle loomed ahead, casting long, eerie shadows. Andrei noticed a part of the wall had crumbled, revealing a narrow passageway that hadn't been there before. "Look at that," he said. "We have to check it out." Elena, always curious, agreed, but Mihai was hesitant. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "It looks really creepy." Mihai mimicked Andrei's bravado. "Don't be such a coward," Andrei said. "We've come this far, haven't we?" So they squeezed through the narrow passage and found themselves in a hidden chamber filled with old relics and dusty books. The air was thick with the smell of decay, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling like old curtains. Elena picked up an ancient book, its cover cracked and worn. "Look at this," she whispered, opening it to reveal strange symbols and drawings of people being impaled. Mihai went pale. "We should go," he said. But Andrei, fascinated, ignored him. "This is amazing. We're standing in history." Mihail's voice dropped to a whisper. Just then, a cold wind blew through the room, extinguishing their flashlight. They huddled together, their breaths visible in the icy air. "Did you feel that?" Mihai stammered. Elena's voice shook. "Maybe we should leave." As they turned to go, the ground shifted beneath them, and they fell through a hidden trapdoor into a dark underground chamber. The walls were lined with skeletons, and the air was thick with the stench of death. Andrei stood up, groaning, and asked, "Is everyone okay?" Elena nodded, her eyes wide with fear. "We need to get out of here," she said. Mihail paused again, looking around the circle at our captivated faces. Then they heard a low, scary laugh that made their blood run cold. From the shadows stepped a tall, gaunt figure with piercing eyes and a cruel smile. "Welcome," the figure said. "I am Dracula, and you have disturbed my rest." We all shivered as Mihail continued. "It's him, Dracula," Mihai screamed. Andrei tried to be brave. "We're sorry, we didn't mean to intrude," he said. Dracula's smile widened, revealing sharp, blood-stained teeth. "Sorry won't save you now," he said. With a wave of his hand, the chamber filled with ghostly figures, their empty eyes full of pain. The friends backed away, but there was nowhere to run. "Please let us go," Elena cried. Dracula's voice was cold. "You will join them, just as they joined me." The friends screamed as the ghosts closed in, their cold, bony hands pulling them down into the darkness. The last thing they saw was Dracula's cruel, mocking smile. Mihail leaned back, the firelight casting eerie shadows on his face. They were never seen again. The villagers found the castle empty days later, and no one has dared to go near it since. The legend of Dracula lives on, haunting the village of Brnesti forever. We sat there in stunned silence, the crackling fire the only sound. I could feel the chill of the night creeping in, and for the first time I truly believed in ghosts. We sat there in stunned silence, the crackling fire the only sound. I could feel the chill of the night creeping in, and for the first time I truly believed in ghosts. A few weeks after that campfire night, I couldn't shake the story from my mind. I found myself thinking about Brnesti, the castle, and the friends who disappeared. Curiosity got the better of me, so I decided to visit the village and see if the story was real. I arrived in Brnesti on a gray, overcast day. The village looked just as Mihail had described, quaint, with cobblestone streets and old stone buildings. I asked around about the castle, and the villagers were reluctant to talk. Most of them avoided eye contact and mumbled excuses, clearly uncomfortable with the topic. Finally, an old woman named Anna, who had lived in the village her whole life, agreed to speak with me. We sat in her small kitchen, the air filled with the smell of freshly baked bread, as she told me what she knew. "People around here don't like to talk about it," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But the story Mihail told you is true. I knew Andrei, Elena, and Mihai. They were good kids, always full of life. When they disappeared, it was like a part of our village died with them." She took a deep breath before continuing. "That castle is cursed. It's been that way for centuries, ever since Dracula ruled these lands. They say his spirit still haunts the place, seeking revenge on anyone who dares to disturb him." I thanked Anna for her time and decided to visit the castle myself. I know it sounds crazy, but I had to see it with my own eyes. I needed to know if there was any truth to the legend. The path to the castle was overgrown and treacherous. As I made my way through the dense forest, the sky darkened, and the air grew colder. The castle loomed ahead, just as Mihail had described, casting long, eerie shadows. I hesitated at the entrance, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. Taking a deep breath, I pushed forward, determined to uncover the truth. The interior was dark and musty, the air thick with the smell of decay. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and every step I took echoed through the empty halls. I found the narrow passageway Mihail had described and squeezed through, entering the hidden chamber. The relics and dusty books were still there, just as Elena had found them. I picked up the leather-bound book, its cover cracked and worn, and opened it to the strange symbols and drawings of impaled people. A chill ran down my spine as a cold wind blew through the room, extinguishing my flashlight. I fumbled in the darkness, my heart pounding. Suddenly I heard the low, scary laugh that Mihail had described, and I knew I wasn't alone. From the shadows stepped the tall, gaunt figure with piercing eyes and a cruel smile. "Welcome," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "I am Dracula, and you have disturbed my rest." I tried to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. Dracula's smile widened, revealing sharp, blood-stained teeth. "Sorry won't save you now," he said, his voice cold and mocking. With a wave of his hand, the chamber filled with ghostly figures, their empty eyes full of pain. I backed away, but there was nowhere to run. "Please let me go," I begged, my voice shaking. Dracula's expression didn't change. "You will join them, just as they joined me," he said. The ghosts closed in, their cold, bony hands reaching for me. I screamed, feeling their icy grip pulling me down into the darkness. The last thing I saw was Dracula's cruel, mocking smile. And that's how I ended up here telling you this story. If you ever find yourself near Brunesti, remember my tale. Stay away from the castle, for Dracula's curse is real, and his thirst for vengeance is never-ending. Also, in the end, just don't forget, it wasn't just a puppy, so you better click that subscribe button.